the Diddy trial.
The
Um,
Diddy trial.
so before we get started, I wanted to so just how anyone could not have heard this at this point, I have no idea. But to get everyone caught up and on the same page, um, Sean Diddy Combs is currently on trial in federal court in New York City. He is facing federal criminal charges, including racketeering, conspiracy, sex trafficking by force, fraud, or coercion, and transportation to engage in prostitution. The racketeering charge basically alleges that Combs led a criminal enterprise involved in a pattern of illegal activities. He's accused of coercing victims into freak offs, drug fueled extended sex performances, and maintaining control through violence, threats, and financial control. So the trial started on Monday, if I'm not mistaken. Have you been following it at all? Like, have you been reading the things? Or I know the last couple of days you've had more important things to worry about. But.
Yeah, I've been seeing a lot of TikToks, and I did like read a few articles earlier about it.
Yeah,
It's pretty wild.
pretty wild. So for me, the energy around it is similar to the energy around the OJ Simpson trial when that was happening. Because I was an adult, but I was a young adult. And so just like the public interest in it is giving the OJ Simpson trial energy. And I find it interesting that number one, the OJ trial was divided almost exclusively by race, right? Black people thought
Mm-hmm.
he was innocent, white people thought he was guilty. This is not the case with Sean Combs. Even though OJ was very, like Jay-Z said, I'm not black, I'm OJ. OJ has always been kind of anti-black, where Diddy has almost been 100% pro-black in
Mm-hmm.
terms of his words and actions, his performative words and actions, right? Because clearly he's doing something different behind closed doors.
Mm-hmm.
Um, does anything stand out to you that, like, was there anything that you're just like, holy crap, this is.
Honestly, like feel so much for Cassie. Like,
Yeah,
poor girl, and
yeah,
like just all that she's gone through. And I love that she stayed strong and got the help that she needed. And I couldn't imagine like a day in that kind of situation, and the fact that she was in that for 11 years, like, ooh.
yeah,
And
yeah,
I know that they say it takes a victim like an average of 7 times before they could leave their abuser. And that's if they live to that seventh time. So I, it's just disgusting too, because as much of a monster as he is, I know like there's more people involved. And so what I don't know what's going to happen if it just ends right here.
well, so I feel like it can't end right here because part of like racketeering is that there are other people involved, right? So, like, to prove racketeering, you have to prove that there were other people involved. So I feel like it can't end right here. And also, because maybe what you're getting at is that Diddy is not the only like large Hollywood name that's involved with this, and that we may not hear any more of those. But
Or
there's
even like
definitely some
politicians, like other big
politicians.
big public names. Like I
Absolutely. So I have so many thoughts around this. But one of the first thoughts I have is, do you remember Jonathan Oddi that did that? So it was in 2018, I believe. Um, and he did a shooting at one of Trump's, it was at the Trump National Doral, I think it's called. It's in Doral, Florida. And Jonathan Oddi went inside of Donald Trump's like resort and like had a whole shootout with police officers. Like he was in there just acting a donkey. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Mm-mm.
Girl. So y'all gotta look this up. So his name's Jonathan Oddi. His last name is spelled Oddi, right? See, he goes in Trump's National Doral Resort and has this shootout with cops. He gets arrested, and his interrogation is actually online. It's been online for years. And during the investigation, and I intended to load some of the interrogation because it's freaking wild. So during the investigation, he says a lot of wild things. But one of the things that he says is that, excuse me, that he had been having freak offs. He used the term freak offs, that he was Diddy's sex slave and that he had been having freak offs with Cassie and Diddy, about 15 sessions, and like goes on this whole, like, he's telling like a whole story around this, right? And this is back
Mhm.
in, I think the interrogation happened in 2018, right? Right after he was arrested. So this is well before Cassie's lawsuit.
Right.
Excuse me. Um, he says some other things that are pretty wild. Like he definitely he made like some interesting parallels between like Mark Garagos, who is Diddy's one of Diddy's attorneys, and like basically talked a little bit about like them killing um artists because artists tend to make more money after they die. I found that kind of fascinating. He also talks about Barack Obama being a CIA agent and that Osama bin Laden never existed. Like he has some pretty wild claims, and he sounded crazy back
Uh-huh.
then when he was making these claims, right? But
Uh-huh.
at least, bless you, the part about Diddy and Cassie has aged like wine. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, he talks about having, he actually ended up catching herpes during those encounters. And he also took some video during those encounters, snuck and took video during those encounters because what he said was he wanted to have evidence that if Cassie died or if anybody died, these are his words, that he didn't want to be held accountable. So I found that fascinating.
Yeah.
At some point, he let Diddy know that he had the video, and so that's how the settlement came about. He ended up getting a $5 million settlement and had to sign an NDA agreement, and it was all good, right? And then, according to him, Diddy, along with aided by Mark Garagos, allegedly, where's that allegedly button? Have basically were he thinks he was being spied on and harassed, which is a violation. It was a breach of the agreement, right? He thought he was being spied on via his technological devices, and I do find it interesting that also the mom of Diddy's youngest child is like a global cyber digital security professional. So
Mhm.
like it's possible.
Yeah. For
Possible.
sure. For sure.
Yeah. So Jonathan Oddi has actually been being held. He allegedly being held in a Miami jail. I'm not sure how true that is because he's first of all he's charged with the shootout with the cops and all of that, but in 2018. It's 2025. He hasn't even been to trial yet. That's weird. And he keeps having court dates come up, and he's not at the court dates. Like his attorney will show up and they just basically push the court date back. And like we haven't heard from him until very recently. I think he finally made a statement like 2 or 3 days ago. Like very recently he made a statement basically saying that he kind of feels vindicated that everything that he said about Diddy was true, and it's coming out that it's true, and says that he feels bad for Cassie. So his name is Jonathan Oddi, and if you want to watch the interrogation video, it's up on YouTube. I don't remember the name of the channel, but it's up on YouTube if you want to watch it. It's wild.
I will. I feel like when you were telling the story, I feel like I did hear about like one of Diddy's like sex slaves coming forward. I guess I didn't know it was like that whole connection.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm
And
saying. Like, we don't know. How big is this? How big is
mhm,
this?
mhm. Now, trigger warning. When you go to watch the interrogation video, he is a Trump supporter.
Mhm.
So just be, aware of that. But none of that changes the fact that he was saying these things about Diddy and Cassie in 2018 that are now
Yeah.
verified in 2025. He's also, Jonathan Oddi was also raised in South Africa. So given what's happening with them right now, I've found that kind of fascinating.
Very fascinating. Oh my god.
um, what did you think about, so, at the beginning of the trial, they made a big show of his mom and children showing up to the courthouse as a united front.
Mm-hmm.
And then once Cassie got on the stand, his girls were in there for a while, but they ultimately ended up leaving the courtroom, and I don't think they've been back in the courtroom since. Um, but his sons stayed, and I found that interesting and wondered if there was anything to be read into that.
I mean, how old are his sons? Like, they're all like of age, right?
They're adults, legal
Yeah,
adults.
yeah, I would not be surprised at all if his boys were involved in that.
Yeah.
And again, like,
Allegedly.
right, thank you. And who knows for how long? Because like, I don't know, I feel like there's certain father types. Like, I think of Boozy, right? Taking his 13-year-old son to a strip club and allowing like a stripper to make out with his child.
Hmm.
Like, what does that do? I mean, to me, like, that's kind of predatory,
Oh, for sure.
and it's like,
100%.
what does that, if you're being exposed to that at 13, like, what's that mind looking like when that brain is fully developed?
Yeah. It's scary. It's a scary thought. Something else that I thought about is that his daughters are, I don't know if they're 18 or 19. They're right on the line though. 18 or 19, his girls are. Cassie um, stated under oath that I don't remember if she met Diddy at 19 or started dating him at 19. And I think Diddy was 48 at the time. So, like we've mentioned multiple times, that frontal cortex is not developed, and any man that's having a sexual relationship with someone whose frontal cortex isn't developed is already suspect. It's weird. Seems
Mm-hmm.
predatory, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it made me wonder, like realizing that his daughters were the same age that Cassie was when they started dating. Number one, when you look at his girls, like they look like children. They look like
Mm-hmm.
children. But I wonder what Diddy would think if somebody like, I don't know, Drake was doing to his daughters what he was doing to Cassie.
Mm-hmm. See, again, I feel like with men, it's almost like this pissing contest. So like I wonder if Diddy like didn't even have that fear for his daughters because he was clearly the worst of the worst.
Yeah.
Like, and I remember I remember listening to this true crime episode, and I think it happened in the 80s. And it was this family that was like brutally murdered, like all the women were sexually assaulted, and
Mhm.
the husband, he was deployed, so he was like gone and like came back and to this tragedy, and the case went unsolved for like 20 years, I think, but with DNA and all that stuff they found out it was the neighbor across the street that also had children the exact same age. He killed a 2-year old and like assaulted her, and he also had a 2-year old. And not to say that like women aren't also like this, but like men can just kind of flip that and be like, well, it's not mine. Because remember, men are all about like power and like all that. And so they can just disregard something because, like, well, it's not mine.
Yeah. I was having,
And
oh, sorry. Go ahead.
no, I was just gonna say, like, I've kind of seen it too with like, I hate to say it, but like false paternity tests, like when a man finds out like a kid that he's been raising for 10 years isn't his. And not to say that like, yes, I understand you're hurt, you have every valid, but like to just be able to flip and be like, oh, I automatically don't care about this child anymore because it's not mine. Like, what?
How? Yeah.
How? Like, you raised that child, though.
Yeah.
Like, all that child has ever known was you,
Yeah.
and now you're
And your
just like,
beef is
I
with
don't
the
care.
mom, not with the child.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I was talking with a client this past week about something completely unrelated, but she said something to me that rang true. She talked about how men tend to be more self-centered and about what feels good to them, what benefits them, where women tend to be more community centered and focused on what can I do for you? How can I, make sure that we're good? Um, and that checks
I believe that 100%.
based on what
Well,
I
and I
know.
mean, yeah, I feel like you kind of see it just in real life. Like, most men tend to be a little more violent with stuff, whereas
Mhm.
like women are like, hey, why can't we talk about this? Like, why does it have to escalate? And I don't know if you ever saw that, like that trend, and people were asking AI like, what would one day without men look like versus one day without women? And it progressed like a week, a month, a year, 10 years. And so for all the years and days without women, it was very violent. Like, there were wars going on, like it just was chaotic, and people in the comments were like, at that point, like, who are you fighting? Like, why? What's going on?
Yeah.
And then like in the future, it was, a little bit more futuristic, but they had literally created like women AI to kind of do everything. Meanwhile, the women, like, where would the world be without men? It was peaceful. It was like a utopia. There was
Yeah.
gardens everywhere, water was flowing,
Yeah.
everyone just looked so happy and excited. And it's like, yeah, like there's a big difference.
Yeah.
And
I
like,
mean, yeah.
and I was just talking with some of my guests. A few of us, we've been watching The Last of Us. Do you watch that?
No,
It's
but I will.
it's
Is it
pretty
good?
good. I
Okay.
think so. It's very like apocalyptic zombies.
Okay.
But what's interesting is it's it's a virus caused by cordyceps, and that's like a real thing, like cordyceps taking over the brain and just like um so I've been talking to people about like these kind of post-apocalyptic movies, books, whatever. And the more I watch them, the more I'm like, and you know what's still scary? Like we're still in an apocalyptic world, and the scariest thing is still a man. Like in the first season, not to spoiler, but the little girl gets kidnapped and by humans. Like there's literally zombies out there. And like again, you're worried about getting your dick wet.
God.
Like, and I don't know if you ever saw the movie 28 Days Later. That's another like scary zombie. And keep in mind, I don't know how you feel about zombies. Me personally, hate zombies, especially a running zombie.
Oh my
Don't like
God.
it.
I'm
And
dead.
yeah,
If the
and
zombie
both of
is running, I'm
those,
dead.
yeah, and both of those, they run and they run fucking fast.
Yeah.
And so in 28 Days Later, again, like you're going through this whole like, we have to fight for our lives. And at the very end, the people you've been following, they kind of find like this military base to like help them. And
Hmm.
so the guy pulls the other guy in and he's like talking. He's like, yeah, you know, you guys found us, blah, blah, blah. Like, it's going to be okay. And then he goes, but I promise the men women. And like, you just know what's going to happen after that. And again,
Wow.
it's like, are you kidding? I just survived a literal fucking zombie apocalypse just to get raped.
Wow. Well, hopefully I mean, clearly they're badasses because they survived. So hopefully, you know, they
Right.
take care of it. Of them.
Yes.
Of them.
But
Wow.
God.
Wow.
Yeah, it's
Wow.
just like, again, out of all things. And there was another part in The Last of Us where they're kind of in this city and they've barricaded themselves from the zombies. So they have like a little functioning town going on, and they're having like this town hall kind of dance situation, and two girls are like dancing and they end up kissing. Well, lo and behold, some fucking old man comes in and like calls them a dyke and like pushes them. It's like, buddy, it's the end of the world. And you're being homophobic right now? Get out!
No, priorities.
Get out! Get out! I'm
Priorities.
kicking you out. You're not
Yeah.
staying. Goodbye.
Yeah. Insanity. Insanity. Yeah, I'm not a huge horror person, and I would absolutely file zombies under horror.
Yeah.
Um but it depends on what it is, right? Because like Get Out, I like that and that's horror, but I feel like it's more thriller.
Mm-hmm. More
So like
psychological.
yeah, so like I do love a good psychological thriller, but I don't like, for me, being scared is not my idea of a good time. And I'm scared for real.
That's real.
Yeah.
That's very real.
Um, okay. So while we're talking about men, um, there's so many people in the comment sections of this, and I don't know why. I know better than to get in the comment sections, but I just keep doing it with this Diddy trial. And you keep seeing, well, first of all, there's a ton of bots. And again, I've been watching a lot of footage, and so apparently Diddy's like paying for a whole um he's definitely paying for bots to like go and say that like Cassie was a part of it and da 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 da
That's what
da.
Johnny Depp did with Amber Heard.
Yep. He also hired a bunch of miscellaneous people to for $20 an hour to put on free Diddy t-shirts and stand outside the courthouse. Um, but there's a bunch of people online that basically are like, why didn't she leave? Right? Like that's always, and I don't know. And I'm pretty sure you've said that this is that you've never been in an abusive relationship, but I have. And I've witnessed a lot of abusive relationships. And what I know for sure is, well, what did you just say? How many times does it take to try to leave before you actually get out?
7.
7 times. And what we know for sure is that um, at least one time she tried to leave and he drug her back and put hands and feet on her and then paid for the evidence to disappear. So are we thinking that's the one and only time she ever tried to get away? I feel like it wasn't.
Right.
I
Right.
feel like it wasn't.
Mm-mm.
So I think that's gonna kind of go under the racketeering charges too, because you're
Mm-hmm.
paying for stuff like that to go away. But I do find it fascinating. So we were talking about her being 19 and her frontal lobe not being developed. But in 2011, when she started dating Kid Cudi, she was 25 years old. That frontal lobe is finally starting to come together. I think she's starting to realize she's not the only one. Maybe there's something
Mm-hmm.
different and better. So I do find that fascinating. One of the most terrifying things to me, just again, staying in that whole why didn't she leave vein, when she was on the stand, she talked about a time when they were on a boat in Cannes. Uh, they have the film festival there,
Mm-hmm.
and um, he thought that she had stolen drugs from him and threw her off of the boat, like physically overboard off the boat. And left her there. No passport. She had to swim to shore. Thank God she survived. How many times has he done that to other
Right.
people? And then so she ended up staying with like some of his assistants or something for the remainder of the trip. But then when she got on the flight to go home, according to her, she had like traded seats with someone so that she wouldn't have to sit by him. And he traded seats with the person next to her so that he could sit by her. And then he proceeded to show her videos of freak off sessions and threatening her that if she left him, that he was going to release those tapes. So again, she did try to leave. He's a psycho.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%.
Yeah.
Ugh,
And
that's
if I'm not mistaken, I thought that J-Lo said that Diddy had stalked her for a while as well.
I was just gonna say, so I saw there was a TikTok of this girl and she was talking about how was it MTV used to have like those journal diary episodes or something back in the day. And she was talking about J Lo's because at that time J Lo was with Diddy.
And
And she was filming that one movie with her and Matthew McConaughey, and you can kind of tell like Diddy is a little jealous. I think he asked like, "Oh, are you gonna be kissing or something today?" And he just kind of like randomly showed up, and she was saying how sometimes he'll just show up and surprise her with stuff, and um at that time, and again, I kind of go back with like Amber Heard and Johnny Depp, not to take away from Cassie and Diddy's situation, but with Johnny Depp and Amber Heard, everyone again was kind of like, well, why didn't she leave? Why didn't she do this? Like she was also uh, a public name, like blah blah blah. And it's like what a lot of you aren't getting is the power dynamic. Yes,
Mhm.
both Cassie and Amber are well known like names in Hollywood, but like on the power scale next to Johnny Depp and P. Diddy, like,
Mhm.
they were nothing,
They're nobody. Yeah.
essentially.
Yeah.
So, like, and again, people all the time are always like, well, who wouldn't want that life? So how would they look if they were like, oh no, I don't want this?
Yeah.
People would also be like, what? You don't want to be with Johnny? You don't want to be with P. Diddy? So I
Yeah.
feel like women can't win either way. Either
Mhm.
we reject it and then, we're stupid, we're bitches, we're ugly, we're fat, or
Mhm.
we do get it. We're gold diggers, we're bitches,
Mhm.
and it's just like, so which one is it?
Yeah.
Which one is
Just
it?
tell me that you like dick and like leave me alone.
Literally,
Like leave me out of it. If you're
yeah.
gay, just say
Just
that.
say that. It's 2025.
It's
Be who you
fine.
are. Be who you are.
Yes. Um okay, more fascinating facts for me. So based on testimony that was provided by a special agent involved in his arrest, it sounds to me like Diddy was either like in the midst of a freak off or preparing for a freak off. So allegedly he had gone back to New York, but because he knew that an arrest was imminent, but he thought the plan was that he was going to turn himself in.
Mm-hmm.
But then he didn't turn himself in. They went and arrested him at his hotel room, where they found a bathtub full of baby oil, drugs, like all of the tools for a freak off. Like, yeah, he was either preparing for one, had just finished one, was like in the midst, like something. So yeah, like you're literally getting ready to be arrested and like apparently feel untouchable.
You know what is like even more? I think about like history, and they used to give women like lobotomies for being like over sexual.
Mhm.
And now I'm like, you know what? Bring back lobotomies to the men. Men need lobotomies because this is sick. You're telling me you're about to turn yourself in for a fucking, what, a RICO charge? And again, you're worried about getting your fucking dick wet?
Girl, can we talk about how I think that Cassie is still protecting him too? I was just talking with my husband about this. I don't know how, like,
Stockholm syndrome, babes. Yeah.
Stockholm syndrome, absolutely. So, one of the escorts that participated in these freak offs with him said that like Diddy would be in a corner pleasuring himself and like giving directions on what he wanted them to do. And then when the men finished, Cassie and Diddy would go into another room and he didn't know what happened in the other room when Cassie and Diddy would go in there. So then they questioned Cassie about it. And she said that he would like, basically, that she would take the finishing juice out and like rub it on Diddy's areola. I think that Diddy is a CUCKOLD and that's not what, I mean, maybe that was happening, but I don't think that's the only thing that was happening in there because you're already on some freaky shit. Why couldn't you do that in front of the escort that you're paying off? Like,
Mm-hmm.
so I think she's still protecting him. I think she doesn't want to embarrass him any more than he's already being embarrassed. And I'm not blaming her. I'm just noticing that I feel like there's some things that she's still leaving left unsaid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, I don't want to sound like I've been thinking about this trial, and I was thinking about the Amber Heard and Johnny Depp, and then
Mm-hmm.
it had me thinking, like, I don't know if you read a lot of dark romance books, but they're very
Mm-hmm.
popular on Book Talk. And
Okay.
I don't know even if you've seen the movie or heard of it. Was a book too, that
Mhm.
365 days.
Mm-mm.
You do not have to watch it. Would not put it on your like unless
Oh,
you're bored. Unless one day you're just like, you know what, I want to check out that movie. You go for it. But like,
okay.
it's literally Stockholm syndrome. So like, I watched it because people were like, oh my gosh, this is what 50 Shades of Grey should have been, but like hotter. And you know, like I'm a woman. I liked 50 Shades of Grey. I was like, you know what? Let me check this out. So
Uh-huh.
I'm watching it, and don't get me wrong, both the male and female lead, hot. Like
Mhm.
I would pay to be a third. So I get it.
Mhm. Mhm.
But like I when I got done watching the movie, I like had to sit with myself for a little bit because I was like, yes, this was like hot, but like she's low key a victim.
Mm.
Like, this
Mhm.
man kidnapped her and was stalking her for 5 years.
Wow.
And then, like, was like, you have to live with me for a year. And if you don't fall in love with me, then I'll let you go.
I feel like
And, like,
I've heard of this.
I'm sure it was very popular. I'm sure you have
Yeah.
heard of it.
Yeah.
And, like I said, like, the leads were hot. So, like, I
Mhm.
get it. I get the
Mhm.
idea.
Mhm.
But I
Mhm.
do wonder, like, with this type of media, what are you teaching like women,
Mhm.
especially like young girls that have access to this? And I know people want to sit here and say like that's their parents' job, that's their parents' jobs. Absolutely, 100%. But there are going to be some that like they're going to watch it, they're going to read it. And so I'm just always like, what are we? And I don't want to, you know, bash on it because don't get me wrong. I've read some dark romances. I was like,
Uh-huh.
okay.
Uh-huh.
I don't know what I would do in this situation, but like, girl, I understand.
Mhm.
Um, but when you have these men that come from money, come from power, are hot, like it's okay, right? It's a part of this fantasy. But
Yeah.
like, do you think if this were the hillbilly out in West Virginia, like, no, this would be a Criminal Minds episode.
Mhm.
So like, there's also this like society's problem of, well, why is it okay when this person does it, but it's not okay when this person does it?
Mhm.
And I feel like, you know, not now, but P Diddy was never ugly.
Ugh. I think
I
he's
I mean,
disgusting.
I don't think he's like hot, but like I don't think he was
Disgusting.
unattractive. And so yeah, like who's allowed to get away with this and who's not?
Well, it certainly helps. I don't find Diddy attractive. However, money does have a way of cleaning people up. Some people clean up well, right? I'll give him that. But I have always, like, he just looks like a dirtball to me. I've never trusted him.
Yeah.
I've never liked him. Like, he just seems evil. His eyebrows even do like that little devil point. Like, he just looks dangerous. And
See, when I think of P Diddy, I always think about him like early 2000s.
mm,
And again, not to say
22 man.
I wouldn't put him as like, you know, people's sexiest man, but like I
Mm,
also wouldn't be like, oh, he's ugly.
yeah. He can't even
Now,
close his mouth.
absolutely.
Like, he can't even close his mouth. Like, every picture, his mouth is hanging open. Like, he's a fucking disgusting mouth breather to me. So, but
For sure.
everybody's, good looking to somebody. So I got, and money certainly doesn't hurt the
Yeah.
case.
Mhm. Mhm.
So I'm looking forward to obviously the trial continuing. They're talking about it's going to be, I think, a couple of months trial.
Mhm.
And I saw that the prosecution has turned in their witness list, but it's not publicly available. But that there's apparently like 4 people who are going to be testifying under a pseudonym potentially.
Mm.
I'm just like trying to make guesses on who those people may be. And so I had 3. I'm like, okay, so maybe J-Lo, like Usher. There's been some allegations of things that he's done to Usher. There's been some allegations of things he's done to Justin Bieber. And then I was trying to think of that 4th person, and literally right before we logged on, I was doing something and it hit me. Like, I wonder if it's Mary J. Blige, because if she doesn't testify, she's liable to be mixed up in the charges. Like, I feel like she has to testify to not be mixed up in the shit.
See, I was like, I thought it was kind of a little weird that her and Neo just went on tour
Mm-hmm.
because,
Gotta get her money up.
yeah, and I
Mm-hmm.
mean, there have been rumors that they've all been intertwined. So, and I
Mm-hmm.
want to say, wasn't this tour called like For the Fans or something like that? It
Something
was
like
some
that.
like dedication tour, and I was just like,
Yeah. Yeah.
how convenient of a timing. Like,
Yeah.
and out of
And
all people to tour with, like, you two,
that is such a random,
like,
yeah.
and maybe I just didn't know. Like, I didn't really know Neo and Mary J. Blige were like cool like that. Like, I didn't even know they had songs together. I don't know.
Do they? I don't know if they.
I don't
I don't know
know.
if they have. And
Yeah.
I love Mary. Like, I love Mary. To be clear, I love me some Mary. Um, I always say, like, my son should have been born knowing every word to the entire "What's the 411" album, because I played that thing until the tape broke. Love Mary. And also, like, I think that what started off as her being a victim maybe has I don't know. I don't want to make any speculations. What I will say is that someone that runs in that circle, I can't remember whose name it was, did say that Diddy punched Cassie in the stomach over dinner, and Neo and Usher and someone else were present at that dinner.
Allegedly.
So, and I know that some allegations, there's been allegations of Diddy, not paying his artists. And then Mary got married to that guy who was just basically using and abusing her. And now he's getting alimony payments from her. And Diddy was never paying her for her music. So I just feel like there might be some things going on there that, yeah.
Well, I'd be curious if, because have you heard the conspiracy that Kris Jenner's boyfriend, Corey Gamble, is like the whole reason why this is kind of like coming to light? Because apparently he was, well, not like the whole reason, but
Yeah.
he was there the day that Diddy's ex-wife was found dead.
Kim Porter, yeah. He was
Yeah,
on scene. He was
yeah,
first on scene.
yeah.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. And you know, I know Kanye is Kanye, but there's an episode on Keeping Up with the Kardashians where he kind of calls out Corey and he's kind of like,
Mhm.
no one knows who you are. Like, you could be this plant or like, whoever. And again, I know Kanye's a little out there, but a broken clock
Mhm.
is right twice a day. So,
Mhm. Absolutely. Yeah, no, he's been talking big shit about Corey Gamble for quite some time. I hate that Kanye has turned into what he is. Because he was so brilliant in the beginning. Now I feel like Kanye is like if intrusive thoughts were a person, like he just can't like just think it and like just let it go, right? Like
hmm well,
if
and
he
I was
thinks
gonna,
it must come out of his mouth. Like he's not
yeah,
okay. He's
for
clearly not
sure.
okay.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, and I was gonna say, again, not to excuse his behavior or anything, but looking back, like on some of his actions, he kind of reminds me how Orlando Brown was acting. Like, Orlando would come
Get
out and
it?
say these like outlandish things where you were kind of like, what the hell? But then he would say something like so much more crazy that you kind of forgot about like
Mhm.
the first thing he said. And then, like,
Mhm.
looking back, like, those little things that he said that did seem kind of crazy are kind of starting out to be true. Because I believe he
Mhm.
is also a victim of these parties.
He has mentioned Diddy's name a few
Yeah.
times.
And, like, same with a few of the B2K members. So,
Mhm.
like, I, I don't know, maybe Kanye was someone they couldn't crack and they cracked him. And, like, this is one of the, I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. There's
Again, not
definitely
to
something to it.
excuse
Kanye
anything.
has also called out the Kardashians for being traffickers. So,
Yeah, I mean, that'd be interesting. That'd be
mm,
interesting.
yeah.
I
Let's
don't know, like,
Allegedly.
do I think the Kardashians are spoiled? Absolutely. Are they bratty? 100%. Other than the oldest, I really don't get like malice from them.
mm,
So, I don't know. I would be a little shocked if like they are heavily involved, and not to
yeah.
say, and that's the thing too, like I think we're going to realize, when these names are dropped, okay, like, well, where do they stand? Like, were they doing what Diddy was doing, or were they watching? And again, not to say that one is better than the other, but like there is a
Mhm,
difference.
mhm.
So, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think that, like, find my allegedly button.
Allegedly.
Um, Allegedly, Chris Jenner, like, orchestrated the whole Ray J, Kim Kardashian deal, like,
Mhm.
sex tape deal. So right off the bat, like, as a mom, and this is your child, like, I can't imagine doing that with my child. So right off the bat, like, your morals are questionable. And then I think, like, she's been dating Corey Gamble for years. So I don't think that that's a coincidence. And there was an episode of Keeping Up with the Kardashians where Chloe talked about being at a Diddy party and everybody running around naked and, all of that. Like, do I think that they're orchestrating it? Not necessarily, but I did go down a Justin Bieber wormhole, where it wouldn't shock me to find out that the Kardashians did something to Justin Bieber. Like, there were lots of rumors when he was a child and they were grown women.
Well, that's
And
why I
pictures.
said that's
Yeah.
why I said about Courtney. Now, if
Hmm.
something were to come out about Miss Courtney, I might be like, all right. Now her,
Yeah.
I'm a little more believable.
Yeah.
Um,
Allegedly that one of those children are Justin's.
mhm.
Allegedly.
I've
And there was
I've heard
also some video and pictures of Kim, I think even before Courtney, with Justin,
that.
that were just inappropriate,
I know
for a
there
grown
was
woman.
footage of, I want to say it was Courtney and him like leaving a hotel or something, and I was like, well, that's kind of
Mm-hmm.
weird.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, there's just something about Courtney that I'm like, I don't necessarily trust you. Um, and yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Again,
Yeah.
I don't want to come off as like a Kardashian stan, but I really haven't. And I mean, I don't know, because sometimes with Chris, like, and with the Ray J and sex tape and everything, I'm like, yeah, but like, who's really complaining about it? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, is Kim complaining about the life that she's got because of what she did? Like,
No, I
if
mean, I think
Kim,
Kim participated and
hmm
was with it for
yeah,
sure. Yeah,
yeah.
for
So
sure.
like, I would be like, if Kim came out and was like, I had no idea, like this was blah blah
Yeah,
blah, then I'd be like, okay, Chris, like that was kind of fucked up.
yeah,
But
yeah.
like, I think a lot of people, especially men, don't like Chris because she beat them at their own game. Like,
Mm. Mm-hmm.
you know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Like
Mm-hmm.
she
Yeah,
turned that whole family
yeah,
into a brand
yeah.
essentially. And
No, for
like,
sure.
what's different about like what she did compared to like Hugh Hefner
Yeah,
essentially? Why does Hugh get all this praise and like, he's the man, but like again, Kim Kardashian got called a slut.
yeah, yeah. No,
I
for
just
sure. No, you're
don't
absolutely right.
understand.
And Hugh Hefner was a terrible man.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, it it's all fascinating to me, and I'm literally gonna be like this for the
Yeah.
entire trial
Mhm.
because
Mhm.
I'm here for all of the salacious details, and public shaming when people deserve it.
Mhm.
Um, bury them under the jail.
Yeah.
So, but at this stage, I just feel like Diddy can never be let out because he's already
No.
proven that he's not above tampering with witnesses, threatening witnesses. There's a trail of unalived people behind this man. Um,
Well, and I think the first thing he would do if he got out, he'd flee the country because he already
I
tried to.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Because wasn't he was going to let his sons like take the fall essentially because
I
they were at
mean,
the
that's what it
house
seems like. Yeah,
when it got raided, and then they
yeah.
caught him at his little private airport trying to leave.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. To head to Antigua. He was heading to
Like,
Antigua. The guys that
yeah.
uh, took us out on the boat were telling us some like little behind the scenes deets on that. Yeah, yeah, crazy, crazy. And as terrible of a person as I believe Diddy is, and he deserves whatever he gets. I know that he is not the head of the snake and that they're just going to slide someone else right into his place and whatever they've been doing will continue.
Mhm.
um so I don't know if he'll get Epstein. If he's smart, I hope he's got like some information with receipts
I
out
feel
here.
like that's the only reason why he's like kind of still
Still alive.
alive.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like, and
Yeah.
I'm sorry, like you don't get like people of those names to just do that stuff without documenting.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we'll see.
Yeah, we sure will. We sure will. Holy
Can you
shit.
believe it's been an hour already? That's crazy.
I can, because we just love to
We
talk.
just all the time, just yap, yap,
Yep,
yap.
yep, yep.
So, do you have any closing thoughts?
I was gonna say, with the name drops of like women, because I know Britney Spears' name was dropped. And what I found interesting about that was like it was in 2007, I think she attended some party. And if I remember, that was the year of her breakdown. I think that was the year she shaved her head.
That
And
makes sense.
like had one of her worst like VMA performances or something like that. And so, and she was in a conservatorship. So I'm just kind of like, when these women's names are dropped, I'm like, okay, again, I know women can be abusers and everything as well, but how many of them probably started as a victim?
Yeah, and I didn't hear Britney's name dropped as someone who was a perpetrator. Did you?
No, but people like in the comments, when they
I got you.
hear
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
these names, they
Yeah.
automatically think, and that's why I'm saying, like, yeah, with Obama's name being dropped, and I think Michelle's name was also dropped. Like, okay, so where were they though? Did
Mhm.
they just attend a party and Diddy happened
Mhm.
to be there or happened to
Yeah.
host the party? Or like was both
Yeah.
Michelle and Barack in a private bedroom like getting their freak on with someone with no consent? You know what I mean?
Underage
Now,
at that. Yeah.
underage at that.
Yeah.
Now, and it's also different if they were present, knew what was going on, and didn't do anything.
Absolutely.
So, like,
100%.
that's why for me personally, especially after some of these big trials, I kind of want to wait till the end before I'm like,
Mhm.
pointing and doing this and all
Mhm.
that because
Mhm.
I've had to eat my own words and like
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
I don't want to do that. So,
Yeah. Yeah. I do
I
want to go back to what you said about Britney though and just point out another connection. So I do remember the video and the photos that came out with Britney when she had gone to a party in Vegas, a Diddy party in Vegas. She ended up being carried out because she was unconscious, basically. And then, right, she had that rough year and ended up in the conservatorship. And I've talked about this before. The woman that put her under, or that helped to put her under the conservatorship, Lou
allegedly.
Taylor, um, also works is connected to Diddy from like the early 2000s. Just wanted to throw that out there. So, anyhow, I am looking forward to yeah, just all of the things coming out and being able to rehash it and go down my own wormhole to find the things that didn't get said, because there'll be a lot of things that they may want to bring up, but there's an objection because it's not relevant
Mhm.
to this thing.
Mhm.
um Cassie did confirm that some blind items had come out that were true, and I love me a blind item now.
Okay.
I love me a blind item, so I'm gonna be checking those out, like, and taking them maybe more seriously now.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Well, and that's why I'm curious too, like, what's gonna happen with Jay-Z and Beyonce?
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
And again,
Absolutely.
not to put all the blame on Miss Beyonce, but like Jay Z had to have known. Now, I could see what I could see happening with Mr. Jay Z, allegedly. I could see him being involved earlier. And then maybe
Mm.
when him and Beyonce got a little more serious, especially like marriage
Mhm.
and pregnancy, maybe he wasn't so involved because he became a
Mhm.
family man. And again, men can do that, right? Men can
Mhm.
just switch off that switch and just be like, "Okay, I'm going to be
Mhm.
a loving husband and father, and what I
Mhm.
did in the past, that's no longer me."
Yeah.
And it's like, because I feel like some of his reactions have been very like defensive and not in the defensive I'm innocent, like
Mhm.
defensive I need to figure something out before you dig a little further.
On another same vein, different note, Cowboy Carter is phenomenal, and people have been streaming it live on TikTok. So I've seen it multiple times at this point. Blue, I am like just such a proud auntie. Blue is just growing up to be like so amazing and
Mhm.
talented and beautiful. And, she's introduced Rumi to the world on this tour, and I just cannot get enough. So that's what I'll be doing with myself tonight is watching
Yes.
my little nieces perform on TikTok Live.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
All right. You want to read us up out of here?
Yes. That's a wrap, but the movement marches on. Black Behind the Chair isn't just a show, it's a statement. We're M-Pad and
Peppermint Petty.
challenging you to be your most authentic, unfiltered self, both in the salon and beyond. Keep shaking the table and breaking the mold. Until next time, power to the curl.
Cheers.
Cheers.